Hello, my name is Momioka and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be talking about the deck I played at Bushiroad's BCS 2025 in Houston and explaining the choices I made for the list. My final record got me to a top 32 finish with a record of 5-2 with the matchups I played against throughout the tournament on the screen. After a lot of testing, I decided to go with Bar Door Ave Mujica. This deck was a lot of fun to play throughout the tournament, and I wish I could have taken it all the way, but unfortunately my breakers were terrible. So, now it's time to take a look at the list. Once we finish going through the list, I will go back through and explain some of the specific card choices I had in this list and their synergies. Now let's start talking about the list. The first thing we're going to talk about is our finisher. Masquerade Dolores we play as a 4 of. Whenever this enters the battlefield from your hand, or it is played by the Wicca Changer, you can heal 1, and then you can, on attack, you can pay 1, discard 1, and give this a card Cancel Burn. So whenever your opponent cancels the attack that the damage this attack does, you can then burn the same amount to them and then pass this effect onto another character. So basically your top end is what you're wanting to be is triple Dolores into, just killing your opponent. Putting a bunch of stacks on one Dolores and just going berserk from there. We have 2 of these beautiful SECs and 1 SSP for my list. Absolutely beautiful card. I'm glad I could represent my girl in the way I could. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Mortis early play. This is a full board early play. When it's in your hand, it can be played without color requirements, and then when it enters the battlefield, you may heal 1, or if you have a full board, you may heal that card into stock rather than your waiting room. This card is insanely busted. I don't understand why this card was made, but yeah, definitely a broken card, so we're going to use it. Next up we have Veritas Oblivionis. When this enters the battlefield from your hand, you may choose one of your music characters and give that character plus 1500 until end of turn, and then during your encore step, you may pay 2 in order to deal 2 damage to your opponent. Next we have Lost Girls Band Ananchihaya. When this is placed from the stage from your hand, you may choose one of the 2 effects, free salvage, or pay 1 to salvage a climax, and then on attack, you may pay 2, discard 1, reveal top card of your deck, and deal X damage to your opponent, X equal to that card's level plus 1. Then we play 2 copies of our Wicca Changer. When you are level 3, you may discard a card and rest this card during your climax phase in order to spawn the Masquerade Dolores from your waiting room. You may also discard the Dolores to this activation and then spawn it anyway. So if you don't have the Dolores as a graveyard, but they're in your hand, you can discard the Dolores to this effect in order to free spawn them. And then when this card is reversed, you may put this card into your memory, and then at the beginning of your next draw phase, this spawns back from memory, pseudo-protecting itself. Next, we have Pordal Amoris. During your turn, all of your other music characters get 2000 power, and then you may sacrifice a character on your stage and rest this card and draw a card. Our level 1 combo is the Masquerade Oblivionis. During your turn, if you have another character, this gets 1500 power, and then when this attacks, you may look at the top 4 cards of your deck, choose a character from among them, add to hand, or put it in your stock. If you put it in your stock, this character gains an additional 1000 power. This is your main combo. This is how you're going just to progress the game in the early game and into potentially the late game. This card is very strong, and you definitely want to abuse this effect. Next up, we play 4 copies of the Sakiko Changer. This changes into your level 1 combo, effectively giving you 8 copies of your level 1 combo as long as these are in your graveyard. So when this enters the battlefield, you may mill the top 3 cards of your deck. You can also rest this card at the beginning of your climax phase in order to spawn this Masquerade Oblivionis from your graveyard onto the battlefield, and give it an additional 1000 power for the turn. Next, I play 1 copy of this 1/0 Wicca. When this is placed from waiting room from the stage, you may look up to the top 3 cards of your deck to find a climax there, add to hand, discard a card, and then you can also just activate this ability, sacrifice it, and choose a character and give it 2000 power until end of turn. Next, we have 4 copies of Masquerade Amoris. When this enters the battlefield, you may choose a character on your opponent's board. That character cannot move to any other slot during your opponent's turn, and this character gets plus 3,000 until end of turn. This also has an additional effect where, on attack, you could sacrifice a character and reveal the top card of your deck. If that has a character, you may add it to hand. Next up, we play 4 copies of Feeling Out Nyamu. When this character is placed in from the waiting room from the stage, you may pay 1 and put the top card of your deck into your clock, or reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. If any of them are characters, you may add them both to hand. Next, we have 3 copies of Lock. This card says whenever you attack, you may discard a card. If you do, this performs a free twin drive, and then when damage dealt by this card is cancelled, you may bounce this back to your hand. We play 1 copy of the Daily Life of a Lost Girl's PR. This is a pay 1, ditch 1, drop salvage, and then also on death, you may do the same effect again. Then we play 3 copies of the Soyo Brainstorm. This is your typical pay 1, rest self, salvage Brainstorm, and then the climax placement effect, it gives a character Crush. Basically, if you're unfamiliar with that term, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck when you attack with that character, choose one of them, put it back on top, discard the other. Effectively choosing your trigger. Next up, we have On Violin Rui. When this is placed on the stage of your hand, if you have 2 or more other characters, you may draw a card and then discard a card. Then you may also pay 1 to sacrifice this character and choose a character in your hand in order to play it into the slot this was in. But that character does have to match your level in order to be a level or lower to play it. So, for example, you can just spawn a level 3 at level 3 or whatever, kind of cheating some of the stock. Next, we play 1 copy of Adding Melody to Lyrics Taki. This card is a climax swapper, so you discard a climax from your hand and sacrifice a character. Then you may free salvage a climax, getting a free climax swapper. And then when this attacks, you may choose one of your other characters and give it 1000 power until the end of your opponent's turn. Next up, we play 1 copy of the regular climax swapper. This is from the trial deck. You may pay 1, discard a climax from hand, salvage a climax, and then this is also a clock bomb on the other effect. Next up, we have You Shall Receive a Temporary Name. This card is a alternate art print of Poor Doll Oblivionis. So when this is placed from the stage in your hand, you may choose one of your opponent's characters, send it to memory, and then spawn it back out from memory. You may also discard a card and sacrifice this character in order to free salvage any character from your graveyard. Next, we play 1 copy of Lone Wolf Taki. When this is placed from the stage in your hand, you may pay 1, discard 1 in order to search your deck for any character at the hand. Then you may also discard a climax from hand to free salvage any character. Let's play 4 copies of our Bar Climax and 4 copies of our Door Climax. Even picked up a couple of these RRR pluses. They are absolutely gorgeous, and I can't wait to pick up the rest of them. Now, let's talk about the deck. Lone Wolf Taki was one of my first inclusions in this final list. It did a lot of work and was great overall throughout the tournament. This card, being a drop search, provides deck searching capabilities that the deck didn't have a lot of unless you played the Mokariki. It also has the ability to discard a climax on play to salvage any character, as well as giving you a way to burn those extra climaxes for your characters if you ended up triggering an extra bar or something. On Violin, Rui is next. This card is a powerhouse. She is beginning to see more play in lists, but not as much as I believe she should be. Rui gives you a hand filter on play, and provides the ability to play a character for free from hand for 1 stock and that character's level as long as it matches your level. The best way to abuse this card's ability is by using it to early play your level 3 Mortis. Mortis, when in hand, if you have a full board, is a level 2 in hand. So you get to play your Mortis for 1 stock, then refund that stock you used by healing a card from your clock into your stock, basically making Mortis a free healer. You can also use Rui as another Awika, meaning you can triple Dolores with 2 Awika and a Rui for having as little as 2 stock. since the Uicas protect themselves when they get a reverse, so later on you can have them on your board for no extra stock. Next we'll be talking about the Lock Level 0 from the Morphonica Razor Swayland set. This card was an absolute banger pick for this deck. Masquerade Timoris is typically played in this slot, however for the build I went with, I am glad I chose Lock over Timoris. Timoris gives some minor deck speed and sometimes some stock generation for the cost of discarding a card. Lock does the extra stock generation guaranteed for the same cost and doesn't have to die to do it either. When playing the deck, typically you go over hand size somewhat regularly. If you discard a card to the effect of Timoris, you are still adding a card to your hand, making you still have to go down in hand at the end of turn without guaranteeing you get free stock off her ability. Lock allows you to burn this extra card for an extra stock every time and can help burn a climax in hand if you triggered a bar during one of your earlier attacks if you choose to attack later with Lock. Daily Life of the Lost Girls promo was a spicy introduction into this core. I am honestly shocked at how little people actually play this card. It's an on-play and on-death drop salvage, so even sacrificing to Amoris, Taki Climax Swapper, or Poor Doll Amoris will give you graveyard selectivity outside of your brainstorms. This card was played a lot in nearly all of my games during both testing and during the event, so I can say confidently I feel this card is a great asset to this core. Feeling Out Nyamu already sees quite a bit of play in this core, primarily as a substitute for the Mocha Riki due to Mocha's absurd $40 to $50 price tag for just one copy. However, this card works extremely well while playing it alongside the Lock that we talked about previously. If you choose to sacrifice a Nyamu to your Morse during combat, more often than not you will go to 8 cards in hand. So that's where Lock can come in and burn that extra card you added to get free stock out of it, allowing you to effectively use Nyamu's effect for 0 stock. When testing this deck with Nyamu and the Mocha Riki, one thing I noticed is hand size throughout the game becoming an issue on occasion. Nyamu can fix that even in the later game. Sometimes you need some extra hand and the Mocha Riki can't assist there. So that's why I ended up on Nyamu over Mocha in this list. The last character in this list is Veritas Oblivionis. This card has seen a lot of play in this core, but I started to see less play here and there. I feel like the Oblivionis is strong enough as a card, along with the Rui package, to still make good use out of her and have your kill power go from being a max of 9 instances of damage to 13. Granted, this is all luck and based on how your opponent cancels, but even having the burn 2 by itself is sometimes all you need to get that last little bit of damage for lethal. On Violin, Rui also helps since your finisher turn becomes super stock light, that having 2 stock required for this effect is very easily available. The last thing I want to touch on is the removal of the stock swap event in this deck. Having a stock swap is very good to have. However, after playing so many games with this deck, it has begun to feel unneeded in this deck. I have never once during the entire tournament, or even when testing after I cut it, did I ever wish I had it. It's great utility for sure, but you want your opponent to kind of compress so your cancel burns stack, and a stock swap can cause some issues there. I completely get why playing it is good, but for how I want to play the deck, it doesn't feel needed. You should be looping your Oblivionis combo as much as possible, so games typically are a little bit faster than normal already just by slamming a climax nearly every turn. So your opponent having a lower stock count is more than normal when playing this deck. One thing to also keep in mind is that your opponent doesn't fully know if you have a stock swap or not, as long as you don't ever go to 0 cards in hand. So the idea of you potentially having the stock swap hiding in your hand the whole time could make them not want to compress as much as if you were just playing a set that didn't have a stock swap. There's another thing as well, is that typically in this core, unless you're specifically playing cards to find it, you don't typically have ways to just get the stock swap outside of just naturally drawing it. Well, that was my list for Barador Ave Mujica. Thank you all for watching. I hope this video potentially helps you understand the deck more as a whole, and I hope to see you on the next one. Have a good one. See ya.